Hello, it's Teresa here with project number 2 of our scrapbook page for your journal or your sketchbook or whatever you want to do. Just bear in mind that some of these for the scrapbook and the sketchbook, these projects are very often experimental, so it might turn out okay and it might not, but then we never know that about our projects, do we? When I start a project, I never know what the finished result's going to be, and this is no different. The only clue is that I'm using what I've already got in my scrapbook that you've already seen. But before I move on with that, I just want to say big hello to all the new subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing, and I really do appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy these videos. I certainly enjoy making them, and the feedback is always good. So just hang around and see what you think. Also, a big well done to Jackie Galloway. Jackie, how on earth did you finish project number 1 so quickly? It was like I've only just published it. It only went live, and my goodness, if your finished piece didn't appear on Facebook, I couldn't get over it. And I must say, it gave me such a big laugh. Oh, not your work, but how quickly you did it. Well done, girl. I can see that your mojo's back. Anyway, getting back to serious stuff now. This is project number 2. And I decided that I'd do the fossil. If you remember, at the end of project 1, I couldn't decide whether to do the fossil one or the giraffe one, and then I was looking through and there were others, and then I was doing my voluntary work yesterday in the cathedral, and there was a little display, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I made notes last night and everything, collected everything, and then I thought, no, I can't do that, because it isn't in here. And the idea was for you to see what's in here, and then I was going to choose a project and work with that project. Well, this is the chosen project. So the project from the voluntary work yesterday in the cathedral will have to wait for another time, okay? But yeah, it really did inspire me. So anyway, fossils. Fossil, this is my teacher mode now. Fossils, or fossil, actually means dug up, and I thought that was really good. Now, this is the progression of an idea from basic fossil sketch. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail because I did that before when I was doing flip through of this sketchbook, okay? So I'm not going into too much details. But this is my basic rough sketch from the museum, Natural History Museum. From there I did a little sketch here in cross stitch on Ada, there. And one thing that progressed, the progression of an idea, so one thing progressed from that to that to that to this. A friend of mine did that for me on his 3D printer, and then these were little sketches. I hope you can see these. I'll just go to make it bigger. So, and then the idea progressed and changed. Our words, exaggerate and eliminate, were brought into play because some areas were exaggerated, others were eliminated. And playing around with newsprint brought me to this, and to this. Right, now I need to make this a little bit smaller, and I think I did show you work that grew out of this, but I thought I'm going to use one of these for my basic design, or maybe one of these, but I still keep coming back to these. I love this, it's almost stylized. Now the lovely thing about working with ammonites is that for art students and math students as well, it's a good exercise in the golden ratio or the golden spiral, both related. So this is a perfect example of the golden spiral. Ooh, round. I just thought I'd throw that in because that is really interesting. So if you are interested, just look up that, just Google that. And if you're on this site, you've obviously got an inquiring mind, an arty mind. You're into progression and development of an idea and probably yourself. So do look that up. That's the golden ratio stroke the golden spiral. Well, you probably already know it anyway. So back to this. Oh, I'm in one of those jittery moods because I've had so much coffee. So I'm going to keep yabba yabba yabba. Now, this, I like this and I like that. They're actually, you can see that the nice circle there, the golden circle or spiral round there. Now, I showed you, I believe, a piece of work that was executed from this. This was, let me see, it's that one. I think it's that one there. Now, I thought I might do similar to this, but not so big. I really don't want to do a big piece of work. I want to keep it small, sharp, simple, so we can move on to something else. Just do a quick project, okay? So that is, at the moment, what I might do. Now, what I will do is, for possibly our new people, is just go through this very quickly. I'll put that over there for a minute. Now, the easiest way to decide how to do your design, you might like that, but you might not want to do the whole thing. So you need a window. So you need to cut out a window. I always like something like a picture frame, like that, which is far too big for that. So look at this apple crumble box, but it has a window there. So you can move this about over your design until you get part of your design, part of your sketch. Your sketch can be in anything. And don't forget, it's personal to you, so your marks won't be wrong. And you're not studying for a degree in drawing. So use wax crayon, you can use anything you want. You can use a twig, a pencil, paintbrush. Just feel happy and confident in what you produce, in what you're doing. Right, so that is one way of deciding on a design. No, that's too big. And then here, now, what I like about these is that because they're in the neutrals, we have nice areas of dark and light. Oh, there we go. There we go. So, if I make that just a little bit bigger, just in case you can't quite see what I'm doing. Right, there we go. So just move that around. See, that is quite pleasing. Now don't forget the contrast. We want contrast, so we want opposites. We want big areas against small areas, light against dark. So we have dark and light. If I move that down, we have long shapes here against shorter shapes there, thick areas, thick lines against narrow ones. Now I do want to keep this simple, as I said. So that is something for me to think about now. I'm just going to close that up. Now, as you do, talking about the frames, as you progress through your design, pop that there. As you progress through your design, bear in mind your little windows here. Now you can use that, and as your work gets bigger, you might want to use picture frame. This is a nice one. That's a nice size as well. Now, if I take that, then I can just move this around. Now, what I don't want this to look like is a feather, because if you remember, I did a challenge. Julie set me a challenge, and that was a magpie feather. So I've done the feather. All right, yeah. So we got these small, fat, long, thin. Could make that thinner. Don't forget, exaggerate the areas you like or eliminate. It's your design, you can't go wrong. So that is an idea. Now I'm just going to show you a close-up of some of my ammonites. Now, as some of you know, I'm packing up to move, hopefully before Christmas, but my fossil collection has been packed, so I'm left with these. Now I bought these. I'm going to make this bigger. These are ammonites, or the inside of ammonites. So these would have been like that. These are halves, and they were made into jewellery as well, as you can see there. I loved these so much. I bought, what have I got here, 6. Yeah, there should be 6 of them there. I bought these in a very small shop in a village. Now I'm not sure if this village is in France or in Germany. It's round about the border area. I think it's pronounced Monchau, M-O-N-C-H-A-U, M-O-N-S-H-A-U, I think. One of the prettiest villages I think I've seen. But anyway, there's a beautiful little shop there, and it sells things like this. Now if we look very carefully here, if I can make these a bit bigger, you'll be able to see the chambers easier. You can, hopefully on your screen or TV or wherever you watch this, you'll see these clearly. You can see, once again, you've got the golden spiral here. Round you go like this, and these are the little chambers. Okay, so this is the shape that I want, the ammonite shape, although I might reduce it to its basic shape of a circle, so I might round that off. Now here we have a contrast in the shape, the size of the chambers. The big ones here against the little ones here, around here. So there's all sorts of things here just with one of these, just with one. I mean, they're practically identical. They're almost identical. They look alike. So those are slices of ammonite which inspired me for this work, and others that I have tucked away. So that is the inspiration. Now if you wanted to do this, just Google ammonites and then go to images on the top of the page, and you'll get lovely images like this, or photos, pixels, and you could get a free picture there, but do make sure they're copyright free. I found some bits and pieces, so what I'm going to do, to cocoa dye some pieces. Now these are only a few that I have pulled out, and all I'm going to do is dye all the pieces of fabric that I'm going to use. They're all round about this colour. I'm only doing this just to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to put them in there and just leave them for, well, a couple of hours, as long as it takes to get a nice rich colour on them. And then I will rinse them. Oh gosh, it's smelling gorgeous. And I'm just going to leave those now until they've changed colour. So the cocoa dyeing, I think, has been a great success, and the smell of chocolate is fabulous. That's going to make me want chocolate now. So maybe not a good idea if you're all on diets, cutting out sugar, but never mind. Oh yeah, it's done now. So the pieces were big. They were too big for the piece of fabric that I've chosen for the background, so I have actually cut some of them, or most of them, in half, or I've made them smaller. I've tried to get away from the square or the rectangular look by sloping some of them. If I just move that there, you can see I've sloped quite a lot of these, and that will give the background interest. Now the background fabric, this won't be seen. Now I've also found a couple of little pieces, and there's a couple more here somewhere. Now I'm going to cut the red the same size as the canvas, like that, and then I'm going to sew this along there, so right sides together if you have a right side, and I'm going to machine sew that along there, and then I'll get back to you. You can see the machine sewing there along there, making this very tiny little seam. I've pressed it flat and just opened it, so now you can see the red fabric behind peeping through the boxes here. Just going to cut that off. Now the next piece will go along here or here. Let's have a look, see what we've got here. I'm going to take a piece of Ada there and place, look at that, fits lovely, and place that there. Okay, so then I'm now going to machine sew that. And now we have the third piece. Now all I'm going to do is carry on like this and just keep placing pieces down until I've covered the amount of surface that I need to work. And here we are. Didn't take too long to do on the sewing machine. I introduced a little bit of colour here and here, but I thought these colours were in keeping with the colour seen on the fossil. It was beginning to look a bit too bland and samey, so I've added a little piece of blue sparkly fabric there, and some pink here. Let's have a look what else. A little bit of lace to break it up, and some more pink here. That's the size that I want my work to be, and that fits just right. I've even got a little bit of room just to move it around to make sure I've got the areas I want. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. I have actually decided on a design. It's from here. I like from, I know I've marked it, from there to there. Now I've elongated, I've exaggerated the shorter pieces, which were here and down here. I think I'll turn it on its side actually, because then that's it, that gets in onto the screen better. In order to transfer this onto my backing fabric, because this is so dark, all I'm going to do is trace it. Just draw round this, the shape, and then I'm going to cut it out. And here it is. So let's just marry this up as well, and that is the exact piece there. So I'm now going to put this, transfer this now onto here. Now all I'm going to do at this point is pin all these pieces down, and then I'm going to tack around it. If you have one of those pencils or the pens that you can wash off, I can't remember what they're called, like transfer pens I expect, then you can use yours. I'm not sure that tailor's chalk will work on here. Let's I don't know, it won't be seen on the darker brown, so I will have to tack around it, which is no problem. It's quite a nice thing to do. So the tacking's been done all the way around the edge now. So the red is the outline, and the blue, the dark blue here, is where I'm going to finish. This is the actual size that I want here, which fits into the window, the frame, nicely. So all the edge bits here, past the other side of here, I'm not going to sew. Where the red is, where the tacking is, I'm going to do a solid outline now. I'm using a nice pointed needle to go right the way through all these layers now, because some of these, especially where the seams are quite thick and are very robust, and some needles will have problems going through them. So I've got a nice fine thinnish needle with quite a small eye, and I did need a needle threader to get the strands through that tiny eye. Now I'm using 6 strands of embroidery thread, and I'm doubling it, so I'm actually I've actually got 12 strands going on there. So I'm going to follow the line around here and hopefully get a nice dark outline. And I think in some areas already I should just be picking up the surface fabric and not going through to the back, because although the needle is going through lovely on the top, I have a feeling it might not go all the way through. Right, so I've made a start here. Just make that a little bit bigger for you. And I'm just following the red stitches along. And that will give me a nice definite outline. Already I can see that outline. I'm going to do that all the way around. And that's the first row done. You can see it all around here. Yeah, it looks quite good on the screen. Make that a little bit bigger. What I'm going to do is fill the positive shape in and leave all these negative shapes free to see how that looks. But as I say, it will take its own shape. The next row I'm going to do is this colour, which is still a brown. I'm going to try to stick to the browns at the moment, and then maybe introduce something else. I also like the idea of a nice orange, but not too bright. So I will be guided at the moment by the colours on the ammonites. All I've done is added running stitch, call that slow stitch if you like, but it's running stitch, and I've added twisted chain stitch all the way round, and then blanket stitch, which I then woven a brown thread throughout the legs. So the next thing I'm going to do is concentrate now on the positive shape, which is this shape here. Okay, I'm going to leave these negative shapes for the time being, but now go back and look at these. Now I'm going to do these in the little shapes that they're in, so I'm no longer going to follow the contour of the line around. I'm now going to concentrate on each individual shape. Before I continue with this, I'm just going to show you the little bag that I bought the fossils in, and it was a shop in Montreal and called Adele and Steen here. Lovely shop. And I also bought these at the same time. Look at these, aren't they gorgeous? The polished stone there, but look at the fossil slices there, the ammonite slices. I wonder if they're coming out on, if you can see those. Oh, they are just absolutely beautiful. You see those, and they are very narrow. But I thought I would just show you those. There's beautiful patterns on these stones here as well. And I just was doing out a box. I was just cleaning a box out because of this big move that will hopefully happen before Christmas. And I couldn't believe it when I found these. I thought, oh my goodness, I was just talking about them. So yeah, there it is, Adele and Stein. So put those over there for another time. Right, so back to this. I put some gold organza over the top of the pieces where the light was shining through lemon, and there are 1, 2, 3, just 4 areas there like this, and I just thought, oh, that is just so lovely. And it's it just happens to be strange that it's in that area there, and just a few little loosely woven bits around there. So if I hold that up, you might just be able to make out the bits of net, organza, tulle, whatever here. So I'm quite pleased with that. Now I have only just pinned them down, so the pins are still in place. I haven't tacked. I've started sewing here, and I'm using an eyelet stitch. Now we haven't used this before on the videos, and it's so small that I don't expect you're going to see a single eyelet stitch. There it is, here. If you can just make that eyelet stitch out there. Now it isn't perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect, but that is eyelet stitch, and I'm going to do that in 6 strands of thread with a blunt needle, a nice blunt needle that's going to go all the way through these layers here. And I thought I would bring down some of the colour from at the top. Let's have a look. I'll just make that smaller. So I want to bring down some of this colour here down there, and then marry it with the changing colour now from this cream. If you can see, if I pull back the golden net, you can see the difference in colour there. Okay, so by covering up that cream stroke white colour with the golden net, I've now changed it to this sort of colour. So I'm going to start there with the eyelet stitch. Now it's no good me showing you how to do it on this because it's far too small, so I'll just pop this out of the way for a while and I'll show you how to do it on here. So for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to use wool on Hessian or burlap with a nice big needle that's going to take 2 strands of wool through there, or probably 1 actually, through that lovely eye, and it's fairly blunt. Okay, so eyelet stitch, cut a nice piece here, just thread it up. Now you can work over as many threads as you want. I'm going to do 6, and it's worked in a box, not at the end, a fair size so you don't pull it through your fabric. And this is easy worked. It's a canvas stitch, so it's intended to work on an even weave piece of fabric. So by even weave I mean you have the same amount of stitches are going across the warp as you do the weft. So we're going to take this through here. Okay, now we're going to work in a box. We're going to have an imaginary box. I'll just make this bigger. I think the bigger the better now. Right, we're going to work in an imaginary box. So I'm going to go up here as big as you want, so there's the first one, and I think I should be doing more than 6 actually. So from the center to where you want, back to the center and next to it. Okay, so that's 2, back to the center, up and next to that. oops, 3, always back to the center, and then up next to it, and we make that 7. Right, so that is the first side. We're just going to do this all the way round, keeping to 7. We've got 7 threads or stitches along here, so every side will have 7. So back to the center, so the last one on that side we count as 1 on this side, so we've already got that one there, so that's 1. So the stitch I'm about to do is 2, so we'll put that at the side, so that's 2. So we want 7 along here, and then just go into the back, lose the thread, cut that off, and there we are, the eyelet stitch. Now my center is actually off center. I like doing mine off center. Now it's up to you how you do yours, so you might want yours dead in the center. I think I've always worked mine like this, unless it's something very, very fine, but I like that look. So I'm going to carry on with this in the middle of my work here, and I intend to cover most of this area here at the moment, but I shall see how it pans out. And as soon as I've varied the length of the legs on some of these. Actually some of them look round, they look like flower heads, but hey ho, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm really not that bothered. We need to vary them to get the texture and to get an interesting shape and line and all those things that we know about. I'm now going to add just a few beads in these shapes, not all the shapes, because I don't want to hide all the hessian, otherwise there's no point in making this like a patchwork effect. So I've got 3 strands now, a knot in the bottom, oh where are we, a knot in the thread. Now I'm going to make this smaller. I've also changed the needle. This isn't a beading needle, it's a narrow needle, it's actually an embroidery needle with a large eye, but the beads I'm going to use are quite large, that they're a little bit on the chunky side. Now I'm just going to bring that through here and just make a little back stitch just to make sure the thread's locked, and then I'm going to choose colour beads. If you can see these, they are quite big. You can even see the holes in them. You can see all the holes are quite large. I just hope they're not going to be too big, but I'll try them anyway. I'm going for the plain glass beads first, and I'm going to use them as if they've been scattered. So I've got 2 there, so I've just put, where are we? I've put 2 in place here. I don't think you're going to see this. Then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to go between them to secure it with a little straight stitch between them, just to put those in place. So they're in place. So that's the first 2. And as I said, I'm just going to dot these about as if I've scattered them on the fabric. So the beads are in place now. I'm not sure they've actually added anything to the piece of work. It's not, that little piece there isn't finished yet. There's something missing, and I think I know what it is. I think at this stage the eyes of the eyelets need to be made more pronounced, and I think I might do that with a French knot in each one. I might bring the brown into the centre and do a French knot. I've added a few more beads, some glass beads around here, and I've added the French knots in the centre. Okay, now I'm going to call that finished for the time being. I'm just going to refresh you a little bit on how to make the French knots. Now, I went straight through the eyes with these. Okay, so as you can see here, there's the eye. Now I've nice knot in the back. Once again, it's all exaggerated so you can see this on the screen. So up through the centre of the eye, just twice around the needle, 1, 2, back into the hole. Now don't pull it too roughly or too tightly, otherwise you'll pull it through right through the eye. And there you go, and that is your French knot. Okay, just one on the outside. So from the back through to the front, twist the needle around the thread, 1, 2, back down into the hole or at the side depending on the thickness of your thread, and there you go. Really easy, really nice and textured. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this now and hang it on the wall, as I said earlier, and have a look at it in the morning. Okay, and see what we're going to do then. I've made a few changes, but don't forget this is experimental work, so you might look at it and think, oh, I don't like that. It isn't finished yet, but it is experimental and it's taken its own way. I'll just quickly run down what I've done. Now I've added pinwheels here. You saw that I've added a few more beads. This is feather stitch here. Deliberately left the boxes so you can see the fabric underneath. I've put another eyelet there to fill up a little space. Here it's just regular cross stitch, various sizes. I've got small ones here set against large ones there. On the applique here, on the gold fabric, I've just put some running stitches. On the shape here, I've added a little piece of lace and I've secured that with some running stitches as well. Oh, I've also added 3 lazy daisy stitches in that tiny space there. So as I said, this isn't finished. There's still a lot more to do, but while I've been doing it, I think I might add a lot more beads. I think the to make it more of a composition, it needs to have something here to join it all, and I think I'm going to opt for beads and for French knots just to make it flow all the way down this positive shape here. Now I'm just going to refresh you on how to do the pinwheel here. So you're going to bring your needle up on the edge of your circle. I've got an imaginary circle here and my centre would be around about there. Then you're going to hold your thread down with your thumb like this, and then you'll go into your circle and bring the needle up or out at the length you want. Pull it, and there's your first stitch. And you're going to do this all the way round, back into the circle, into the middle, bring your needle out where you want it. Now the spacing is up to you. There. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around. This is lovely for filling spaces as well, because it just lends itself to the shape. You can just fill a shape with this. So there we go. So that is the stitch here, round there, and as you can see here, I've just got part of it here Oh, and here, oh, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of that round to fill the various spaces. Now, I don't think there's anything else there. That's feather stitch. So I'll just very quickly refresh you with the feather stitch. So, needle out where you want to start your stitch. You're going to hold that down. It's up to you how wide and how long you make your stitch. I'm going to make mine big so you can see what I'm doing. So hold the thread down with your thumb. I'm bringing it out here because I want a wide one. Still keep the thumb there, and then decide how long you want your stitch. I'm going to have mine there. Pull that through, and then you can gently let go. That's your first stitch, and you're just going to repeat this now over here. So I'm going to bring the needle out there. That's how long and wide I want it. And there's your second one. Okay, now you can swing that around. Bring it over here. You might like to bring it in line with that one. You might not. And you're just reversing that stitch. And there you go. And that is feather stitch. Now, running stitch, you don't need to know that. Cross stitch, I'll do a quick cross stitch. I imagine everybody knows how to do a cross stitch. So down here, just going to start there, and there are several ways of doing this. So you're working with an imaginary box, so you're slanting the leg over here like that, and then you're going to go across there in line with the first one there, and then down in line with that. There you go, and that is your cross stitch, and you're just going to carry on doing that. And you normally keep all your stitches going the same way. So all the top stitches will go in one direction, these happen to be going that direction, and the bottom ones will all go in the same direction too. So that is your cross stitch. Now when you're doing your textile artwork, don't forget to vary the length of your stitches, the thickness of your thread, because we're about texture and shape and line. Okay, so I hope that's clear. I'm now going to continue. I'm not sure what stitches I'll be using, or if I'll introduce them. I've added some feather stitch down here, and it's going all the way down here, round there to the bottom. Hopefully that will draw the eye down along there. And I've added a few buttons, one here, some there, and they are very shiny and blingy. And I've got one there. Now I removed the tacking, the red tacking thread, and after I'd removed it, I'd realised that the red tacking was adding to the overall colour scheme of the brown. So I've replaced it with running stitch in red stroke pink silk, embroidery silk, going around here, and it matches. It's the same colour as this, and I've actually finished it. I don't think there's anything else I can put on here now. Now believe it or not, there's an awful lot of work here, but it didn't take very long, and as an experimental piece I'm quite pleased with it. I can see where I would change it if I were now going to develop this into a finished piece for something else. I can see how the progression of an idea would go from here, a few changes to something else, but keeping the negative shapes here and the positive shapes. So not actually changing the shape, but maybe changing some of this internal stuff, if you like, on the positive shape. Now what I've done, I don't know where to start really. I haven't introduced any new stitches, so I've kept to the stitches that we usually use. It's just where I've placed them. I've added some cross stitches here, along here, down here, and on here. Now I've also added little bits of net here to give it a depth. It did look very two-dimensional when I thought I'd finished. It was just flat, completely flat, with just these round shapes here. So I was a bit concerned about that, and I thought the only way to give it some dimension is to add the net, and I think that has worked. It has given it a little bit of background and foreground now. I've worked a running stitch through the holes of the buttons, and then I've whipped it. I've added the sequins here, lots of sequins, and a feather stitch in pink. It needed another colour to add something to it, and that was, as I explained a little while ago, the tacking. The red tacking cotton. As soon as I took that out, there was something missing, so I've tried to address that by putting in these pink bits now that you can see here. I've added some pink flowers and white flowers and beads there. That is actually lace. I didn't sew these beads on individually. If you can see them, they were already there. I've also added more French knots for texture. I've changed that little bit, that little piece there, only a tiny bit. Between the slow stitch or the running stitch, I've put some cross stitches, and underneath these crosses here I've threaded some white wool. So there's white wool under these crosses. Now I don't think there's anything else that I've done. It's all pretty simple. Oh, herringbone stitch there. I'm not sure if I already completed that, but if I didn't, that's herringbone stitch with a little bit of lace thread running underneath. I have a feeling that might already have been there. So there it is. I'm just going to make it bigger so you can see it in a little bit more detail. There we go. So that is the Ammonite experience or experiment. Now the next thing to do is just to tidy it up a bit. I know that it's going in the scrapbook or my design folder, but I still need to do something about these. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to back it with some fabric I found. Now I want maybe an inch around. So with these, I've got a collection of these and they're all blunting now, so I'm just going to trim it along here. Yeah, I think I might need another one, but I will trim this all the way along. I think I might need scissors for some of it because it's quite thick. Now after I've trimmed this, I'm going to back it with some of this just to make it tidy on the back, and I will put this right side to right side after I've trimmed it. So right sides together and pin all the way around, 3 sides completely. So you can see that now, the right sides, and pin this. And then when you get to the 4th side, which for me is this, you're just going to leave that much open. And the easiest way to remember that is to put a pin that way, and then you won't sew across it. So that will now be machine sewn all the way around the edge till there. Right, the machine side's been done. I've also clipped the edges quite close to the stitches, but not close enough to break the sewing stitches. Now if you haven't got a sewing machine, you can easily do this by hand with just a back stitch all the way around the edge, or a close running stitch. Now I'm just going to pull this through the hole. Right, that's all the way through now, and this is always the exciting bit, pulling out the corners to see what it actually looks like. So I need something nice, not too sharp that it's going to break the stitches, but just something to help ease out these corners. I'll use this bone folder. Lovely. Oh. And if you've sewn or cut close to the seam, don't push too much, otherwise you just might come through. Right, and there we have it. The corners out nicely. Now the next thing to do with this is to turn over the edges on the opening. Now just be guided by the natural seam allowance and just turn this, what is the seam allowance, in on itself, pin, and then over sew it along the opening. Now I'm going to use just ordinary sewing thread for this. And the over sewing stitch is just, as it sounds, a tiny little stitch that will go from edge to edge. Let's poke that in. That will go from edge to edge, catching both sides and securing the opening closed. Now just going to take the needle in some way off, only a little way off, lose the knot inside the seam, and then go from edge to edge, just securing the two together. I'll make this a little bit bigger and you might be able to see what I'm doing. Right, and any bits that stick out, because this is very thick, so the edge is fighting to be free, just push them in and just nice over sewing stitch right to the end. Keep the stitches fairly close together so you don't get any bits of heavy fabric poking through gaps, and then do this straight to the end. So here it is now, completely finished. So we have gone from the fossil, the ammonite, and we've progressed our idea through sketches like this, and then to paper templates like this, and that is the actual piece there that I worked from here. So this is now the end of the progression of an idea. Now I think that's really nice. I'm going to make it smaller now so I can show you how it looks the other side. Right, there we go. So front and back lined. Now at this stage, this is to go in my folder here, but if you get this far, you might decide that it's nice enough for a little cover. You could make a journal cover from this, a very small one, a diary cover. I think that's a nice side. I think that's a lovely side there. I think if I were to turn this into a cover, I would possibly use that side as the front. So you could put your pages in here, Midori style. You don't have to go through the cover. You can secure them with elastic or ribbon. So that is one idea. Another idea, while I was pressing this, was it could also make a little purse of some sort, or a small bag. So there are options you have. You don't have to just put this into a sketchbook or an ideas folder, scrapbook, you can use that. You could use that now for something you wanted to make with it. But anyway, I have now finished this. It will go into my folder, I think. I'm not sure yet. I'm really not sure. I think it's too nice to store away and possibly never be seen again. So as you can see there, I'm a bit short up there. I cut it a bit too short there when I was trimming it, unfortunately. But that won't matter. That really won't matter. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please give it a go. You don't have to use a fossil. There, that's hidden it now. You don't have to use the fossil, but if you do, don't forget to go to Peck Sales and see what's available there for copyright free. And if you did like this, would you please like it? I've heard other people say on YouTube, please like it because it helps me out. Now, I'm not sure what the helping out is, but I feel that perhaps I should be saying that too. Please subscribe or please like, because it helps me out, and I really haven't a clue what that means. Okay, but if you could like it, I'll be very, very grateful. Okay then, so I'll see you shortly with project number 3 of this series, and it will be the last project of the scrapbook design not a challenge, is it, of the scrapbook design thing to put in to start your design folder off with, if that makes sense. I'm still thinking about how liking this could help me, so if that didn't make sense, that's why. But anyway, take care, and a big welcome to all our new people again, and hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll stay around. Okay, so I'll see you shortly with project number 3. Okay, bye for now then.